Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to do something a little different. Just for a second, I want you to visualize a revolution. If I say the word uprising or rebellion, what's the very first image that hits your brain?
It's usually noise, isn't it? It's crowds, maybe someone on a tank with a megaphone.
Right. Big speeches, banners waving, fireworks. It's loud, it's cinematic.
Yeah, we're conditioned to see change as this huge, explosive event.
Exactly. But today, we're looking at a source material that argues the complete opposite. We're doing a deep dive into a character study called The Quiet Spark of Katniss Everdeen.
And it is such a fascinating piece of writing, because it basically argues that the revolution in Panem didn't start with a bang.
No manifesto, no grand plan.
It started with a teenage girl just standing still.
And
Standing still when the whole world expected her to break.
that's our mission for this deep dive. We are not just recapping the Hunger Games. You probably know the plot. We're using this source to unpack the psychology of what it calls an accidental symbol.
Right. How does someone with zero political ambition, someone who literally just wants to get through the day, end up toppling a government?
The source frames it through this really interesting lens, the difference between, traditional heroism.
And something the author calls stubborn aliveness.
Stubborn aliveness. I absolutely love that phrase. I feel like that's going to be the thread that pulls this whole thing together.
Oh, it is. It's the engine of the entire analysis.
Okay, so let's set the stage. To understand the spark, you have to understand the pressure cooker it grew in. The source takes us right back to District 12.
And it strips away any kind of Hollywood glamour immediately. It describes District 12 as a place where, and I'm quoting here, fairness was a word used only in books no one had time to read.
Wow, that is such a heavy line.
Isn't it?
It's not just that justice is absent, it's that it's a luxury good, something you can't even afford to think about.
Precisely. When you are starving, you do not have the energy to worry about political philosophy. The source is very clear. Katniss's entire world is defined by scarcity. You're fighting for calories, not democracy.
And then there's the trauma that shaped her before the story even begins, her father's death.
Right. And the source notes the community's reaction, or the lack of one. This was a key insight for me.
How so?
The text says that when her father died, the world didn't explode, it just grew colder.
So it wasn't a call to action, it was a temperature drop.
Exactly. Her mother just checked out, completely catatonic with depression. Her sister Prim was too young, so Katniss had to step into that void.
At 11 years old.
She became the provider. And the text argues this is where people start to misunderstand her character. She didn't start hunting in the woods to rebel.
She was just trying to get lunch.
She's just trying to get lunch. She was following what the source calls the quiet rules of endurance. Breaking the law wasn't defiance in her mind. It was just necessary. It was practical.
Which brings us to this theory of revolution the author proposes. And I found this really counterintuitive.
The pressure.
The pressure. Yeah, explain that.
The argument is that revolutions don't begin with speeches. Speeches come much later. They begin with systems that squeeze people so hard that, as the source puts it, the smallest act of defiance feels like breathing.
So it's not about courage, initially.
Not really. It's about physics.
Yeah.
You compress something enough, and eventually the container bursts. Katniss wasn't trying to burst it. She was just the weak point where the pressure finally escaped.
That totally reframes the reaping scene for me, the I volunteer as tribute moment. We see it as this, this ultimate hero moment.
But the source reads it completely differently. It argues that when she volunteered for Prim, it wasn't courage polished by destiny.
It was instinct.
It was a reflex.
Yeah.
The text says it was the same instinct that had kept her family alive since Winter first learned her name.
It's biological.
It's survival of the pack. She stepped forward because her body just wouldn't let her stay still.
So she goes into the games not as a revolutionary, but as a terrified sister who's just made a horrible, impulsive choice.
And then she hits the Capitol. And the source describes the games themselves as violence wrapped in color and music.
Chilling. That's the Capitol's whole aesthetic. It's theater.
It's the weaponization of narrative. Their real power isn't just killing children. It's turning those children into entertainment before they die. They commodify the suffering.
Which is horrifying. But the source argues that once she's inside the arena, something shifts. This is where that stubborn aliveness starts to transform.
This is the pivotal concept. The text says, watching turns private choices into public meaning.
Okay, break that down for me. Private choices into public meaning.
Sure. So imagine you're in your house and you decide not to eat dinner.
Means nothing.
Right. It's a private choice.
Yeah.
But if you're in a prison cell being broadcast to the nation and you refuse to eat,
Suddenly you're on a hunger strike. You're making a statement.
even if you aren't trying to. Exactly. The audience projects their own hopes and fears onto your actions. And Katniss is just doing things to survive or cope.
Let's run through them. The source lists a few of these accidental messages. First, the flowers for Rue.
Right. When Rue dies, Katniss covers her body in flowers. Inside her head, she's just grieving a friend. She's heartbroken.
But outside the arena.
Outside, the district sees something radical. The Capitol says these kids are just content obstacles. Katniss says, no, this was a person. This life mattered. That's a political statement born from personal grief.
And then there's Peeta. The rules say there can only be one winner, but she partners with him.
Again, the game is designed for isolation and selfishness. It demands you become a monster. By showing loyalty, by showing love, she breaks the entire narrative of the game.
She refuses to be the monster.
She just won't do it.
Which brings us to the berries, the Nightlock berries. This is the moment, right? This is the spark.
This is the moment that changes absolutely everything.
I've always seen it as a strategic masterstroke, like she outsmarted them. But the source sees it as more emotional.
It does. It argues the berries were not some grand revolutionary strategy. She wasn't thinking about overthrowing the government. It was, as the text describes it, a line drawn by someone who had reached the end of obedience.
The end of obedience.
Well,
That gives me chills.
She couldn't do anymore. She couldn't kill him. It wasn't about down with President Snow. It was, I will not participate in this specific act.
And that refusal forces the Capitol to do something they never do.
They panic.
They blink.
They blink. That's the word the source uses. And for a regime like that, blinking is incredibly dangerous.
Why? Why does a 30-second hesitation matter so much?
Because total power relies on the illusion of inevitability. The Capitol has to look like a force of nature.
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable. Perfect. The moment they hesitated, the moment they changed the rules just to stop them, they showed fear.
They show they needed the winner more than the winner needed them.
Exactly. And once everyone saw the giant blink, the spell was broken. You can't put that genie back in the bottle.
So she comes out of the arena alive. But now she's the Mockingjay. And I have to admit, until I read the source, I never realized how deep the symbolism of the actual bird went.
Oh, the ornithology is crucial. I love this part of the analysis. The source calls the Mockingjay a genetic mistake.
A mistake. How is a bird a mistake?
So, quick history lesson from the text. During the first rebellion, the Capitol created these birds called jabberjays.
Spy birds.
The spy birds, biological recording devices. But the rebels figured it out, started feeding them lies. The Capitol realized the project was a failure and just abandoned them. Left them in a wild to die.
But they didn't.
They didn't. The male jabberjays mated with female mockingbirds. The result was the Mockingjay. It's a species that exists only because the government failed.
So it's a living, breathing symbol of the Capitol's arrogance.
And their inability to control nature.
Yeah.
It's a creature that wasn't supposed to exist, singing songs the world tried to erase.
And you can draw a straight line from that bird to Katniss.
The perfect mirror. She's also a genetic mistake of the system. A girl who should have starved, should have died. But she didn't. She survived. She carries, as the source says, grief like muscle memory, just like the birds carry the songs.
So the girl and the bird merge into this symbol. But this is where the source gets really interesting about the cost of that. Because symbols, they don't have feelings. They don't have nightmares.
But people do. And the source points out that folklore always smooths the edges.
What does that mean, smooths the edges?
It means when we tell stories about heroes, we sand off the rough parts. We forget the panic attacks, the indecision, the ugly bits. We want our heroes pure.
But Katniss was a mess.
It's a total mess. And the source says she wasn't built for banners. She flinched at applause. She was paranoid and angry.
The text uses the word fracture to describe her. Not fire, but fracture.
I love that distinction. It cuts right through the marketing. The propaganda from both sides trying to sell her as the girl on fire. But the reality was she was fractured. Her anger was tangled up with love. Her strength was shadowed by just severe trauma.
And everyone wanted a piece of her. It wasn't just the Capitol. The rebels in District 13, they were using her too.
That's the tragic tension. She was pulled between those who wanted to use her image and those who wanted to destroy it. But nobody was really asking, How is Katniss doing?
The revolution literally fed on her pain.
Exactly. The more she suffered, the more compelling she was on camera. Oh, her home was destroyed. Great, let's get that in the promo.
It's a really dark take on the chosen one trope. She just gets PTSD and a camera crew.
And that connects her to these older mythological archetypes the source brings up. The unwilling hero, whose power comes from refusal, not ambition.
The hunter who walks between worlds.
She's the protector who survives, so others don't have to. She's not the king, she's not the general. She is the person who just refuses to kneel. And historically, those figures, they don't usually get happy endings.
Which brings us to the conclusion of the source. And it is not a hooray, we won kind of wrap-up.
No, not at all. The source is very firm on this. There is no clean victory. There's no shining crown.
Because even though the war ends,
the person who fought it is still broken. The story ends with a girl standing in the aftermath, holding memories that are heavier than any weapon.
The world changes, but scars remain. That's the quote that really stuck with me.
It's the truest part of her legend. We like our revolutions to end with charades, but this source forces us to look at the reality of conflict.
The person who starts the fire often gets burned the worst.
Precisely. Katniss survives, yes, she has a life, but she isn't healed in some magical movie sense. She's managing, she's coping.
Which, in a way, brings us right back to stubborn aliveness. Even after all that, she's still just surviving.
And maybe that is the most heroic thing of all. To see the world break, to break yourself, and then decide to keep going anyway.
So let's recap the journey. We started in the cold quiet of District 12 with a girl who just wanted to feed her sister.
We saw how pressure, not speeches, creates the conditions for an uprising. How a private act of grief can become a public declaration of war.
We analyzed the Mockingjay as a symbol of survival against the odds, and we deconstructed the hero, seeing Katniss not as fire but as fracture.
And finally, we landed on the cost. The idea that the smallest spark can change the world, but it always burns the hand that holds it.
It really challenges that loud definition of revolution we started with.
It does. While the history books focus on the noise, the explosions, the battles, the real human story is about the silence that follows.
I want to leave our listeners with one last thought from the source material. It's a provocative idea, and I think it applies to so much more than just fiction. The source says this: revolutions don't end when the noise stops. They end when someone has to live with what it cost.
And Katniss Everdeen does. Quietly. Uneasily.
That is a powerful place to leave it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's always a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Keep asking questions, keep looking for the sparks, and we'll see you next time.